Dan RadioStyle, hope everybody out there's having themselves a great day. Neville Goddard discussing failure. I love it. I love it. I love it. Can I just say that? Because I want to start out. First off, anything, I just want to say, just to start off with what failure can be, right? Because I think for a lot of us, it can come in a few forms, right? Anything is possible with enough time and money. There's a general adage in the world of business and software and everything else, right? Anything is possible with enough time and money. But oftentimes you look at the requirements to get there and the actual thing you're going to get in the end, and you kind of try to justify whether this is worth it, right? A cost-benefit analysis, they frequently call that. Sometimes we don't fail. Sometimes we decide to manifest something different. So I want to start with that too. Sometimes it's a question of, is it a failure or are we maybe not there yet? So there's that component as well. A lot of times people will say, well, I haven't succeeded. What, yet or ever, right? Like, because there's a difference. Maybe the thing that you're trying to manifest could be a couple more feet down the road and then around the corner and you can't see it. But it's just right over there. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. So that's one thing I kind of want people to remember. Failure is sort of a weird thing. It's kind of maybe even sometimes when you throw your hands up in the air and then you don't try for a couple days and then something kind of cool happens and you get back on track. Again, things happen during the process of manifesting. So Goddard's talking about failure and that word that so many people kind of talk about. Like we have one lady that comments frequently and she's like, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, this doesn't work. And she says it pretty much every single day. And for those of you that know me, well, oddly, when you say something over and over and over, of course that ends up being true. So I'm not surprised, but it is a little unfortunate that this individual is having a hard time sort of seeing it. So what does Goddard say about failure? And this is in The Power of Awareness. This is the book. This is chapter 24. I think there's like maybe one more chapter after this. I don't know. We're getting close. It's a lot of chapters. This book would not be complete without some discussion of failure in the attempted use of the law of assumption. It is entirely possible that you either have had or will have a number of failures in this respect, many of them in really important matters. If, having read this book, having a thorough knowledge of the application and working of the law of assumption, you faithfully apply it in the effort to attain some intense desire and fail, what is the reason? If, to the question, did you persist enough? You can answer yes. And still the attainment of your desire was not realized? Was it the reason for the failure? The answer to this is the most important factor in the successful use of the law of assumption. The time it takes your assumption to become fact, your desire to be fulfilled, is directly proportionate to the naturalness you're feeling of already being that which you want to be, of already having what you desire. One of the key things he talks about, and we always frequently talk about, is in order to get to the place we're trying to go, we have to be the person that's able to get there, that's able to be there, that's able to live in that life, right? If I want to win an Ironman, I have to train. There's no way I can possibly win an Ironman without training, right? You don't just be someone like me that probably can't even run down to the mailbox without dying. Like, there's no way I'm running an Ironman. It's not going to happen. So you have to train. You have to be ready. You have to keep working towards these goals. You have to kind of become it from the inside. And if the thing that you're trying to become, like me, I'm going to be an Ironman guy, like if I just look at it and like there's a race coming up in say a month and I'm like, yeah, I joined it. I'm like, have you trained at all? No, I'll be fine. It's like, no, no. Like anyone that's ever, like you either stop soon or you'll die. Again, it's one of those things where you've got to prepare. Now, if it's a year off, yeah, of course. I could get on a training program and start having to but I might need to buy a bike. That'd be a good, healthy start, right? But start getting on a regimen, start swimming, start biking, start running. And, within a year or two, right, I could do it. So a lot of it's that becoming who we are meant to be. And if it's something that you can't believe, if it's something that's too far outside the norm, if it's something that you expect to manifest something crazy in a week. You've put some deadline on it. And it's just like, I keep having a hard time believing this. Like doubt keeps popping into your head over and over because you don't feel like it's possible. That's what he's talking about with naturalness. So the fact that it does not feel natural to you to be what you imagine yourself to be is the secret of your failure. Regardless of your desire, regardless of how faithfully and intelligently you follow the law, if you do not feel natural about what you want to be, you will not be it. If it does not feel natural to you to get a better job, you will not get a better job. The whole principle is vividly expressed in the Bible's phrase, you die in your sins. You do not transcend from your present level to the state desired. How can this feeling of naturalness be achieved? The secret lies in one word, imagination. For example, this is a very simple illustration. Assume that you are securely chained to a large, heavy iron bench. You could not possibly run. In fact, you could not even walk. In these circumstances, it would not be natural for you to run. You could not even feel that it was natural for you to run, but you could easily imagine yourself running. In that instant, while your consciousness is filled with your imagined running, you have forgotten that you are bound. In imagination, your running was completely natural. The essential feeling of naturalness can be achieved by persistently filling your consciousness with imagination. Imagining yourself to be what you want to be or having what you desire. Progress can spring only from your imagination, from your desire to transcend your present level. What you truly and literally must feel is that with your imagination, all things are possible. You must realize that changes are not caused by caprice, but by change of consciousness. You may fail to achieve or sustain the particular state of consciousness necessary to produce the effect you desire. It can happen. So what he's talking about is getting ourselves in the place of that feeling, right? And so the example he gives is a beautiful one. If you think about it, and this is where you are in your situation right now in your relationship, maybe there's a third party, maybe there's someone that just got the job, maybe someone's got more money that's right next door to you, maybe you believe all people with money are evil. Again, maybe there's something that is causing this to be a little less natural. In the case he uses, again, chained to an iron bench with an iron chain. The idea of running is absurd. Your mind, if someone was to say, just run, be free and run, you'd be like, yeah, right, you see this chain? Do you see this thing I'm anchored to? There's absolutely no freaking way I could run. Doesn't feel natural, and it shouldn't. But when you are chained to a bench, maybe just sit down on it for a second and imagine yourself running, assuming you've not been chained to the bench your entire life, but you actually understand what it's like to run because you've done it before. So you sit down on the bench and you imagine yourself running, and you imagine yourself free, and you imagine yourself not chained, but free and running without weight on you and the freeness of your limbs. That is how you make it feel natural, because for that instant, it is real. In that moment, it is happening. And that moment is creative. Because again, you're feeling it. You're feeling as though the wish is fulfilled. You are feeling as though the impossible is somehow possible. That the completely unnatural is somehow natural. Now, hopefully, in this example story, even though he doesn't complete it, maybe after doing this for a period of time, maybe at some point, maybe your captors come in and say, all right, we feel guilty because our evilness has actually gotten to a level of evil that's really, even the devil's upset with us right now. So we're going to let you walk around 20 minutes a day, right? You manifested freedom for 20 minutes. Yes. See, even when you thought it was impossible, naturalness creeps in. So there's a cool little poem he shares. Well, let's say, I guess I can read this last little part. However, these errors and weaknesses can be overcome. Therefore, press on to the attainment of ever higher levels by feeling that you already are the person you want to be. And remember that the time it takes your assumption to become reality is proportionate to the naturalness of being it. Which essentially means, to me anyways, if I'm trying to go from I've never even talked to this person before to married to them, that's a lot of steps. It's a bit of a naturalness jump. So to me, it kind of means that we're going to sort of reach these things in increments. So to say, well, I haven't gotten married yet, it's like, well, yeah, but you just started texting each other, right? Like you're making steps towards this feeling of naturalness, this actual end result. Like sometimes there's a bit of an attainment. It's kind of what I feel when he says this. You have to be the person you are, but sometimes we're not quite sure what that's going to feel like to be the person, right? So maybe sometimes we step it back a small notch. We feel it from closer, like what's going to feel like on the first date versus necessarily being married to this person I've never talked to. Or trying to do a job that I don't know anything about. Maybe I step it down a hair to, a smaller scale. Like for me, like maybe some of the SQL writing I was doing, but prior to that, I was doing some Excel stuff, which is what I was thinking about, writing Visual Basic and doing some coding and making macros and cool stuff. I didn't realize where I was going to lead. So again, trying to manifest where it was going would have been hard for me. But what I was interested in, what I did like doing, and what I knew was in front of me, that's what I was kind of working with and building from that. So how these things happen, they kind of come to you as you start to decide where you want to go with things. So again, I'm all over the place on this, but failure it's sort of more how we look at something, first off. Second off, if you haven't gotten it yet, you don't feel like you've gotten there fast enough, again, it's the proportion to how natural this feels to you. How possible do you believe this is? How much do you think you can do this? A lot of us doubt it. Some of us don't, but some of us have maybe other things like, well, they're angry with me or I'm not smart enough. Like we have other hang-ups that'll affect that naturalness. We have to identify these. We have to see them. Don't try to refuse them. Don't try to stay away from them. It's not that. It's find them. If you have them, if you have these places where for some reason it doesn't feel natural, like I've talked about a lot recently, find these things, hug them, love them, notice them, look at maybe what's causing them, try to spend some time with them. Because your dreams and the things that you're trying to manifest are there for you, are yours to have. They're here for you. And they're ready for you to embrace them as well. It's an issue of when we're ready, when we're there to do it. But this is your canvas to paint. This is your paint to play with. If the drawing's not coming out properly, if the painting's not coming out properly, well, maybe scrape it off. Maybe, I don't know, maybe sometimes we've got to start over. But let's keep working at it. Don't just, I can't paint. Screw it. Doesn't work. Paint doesn't work. Yeah, it does. So he shares with us a really cool poem from Emerson, and I want to close out with that. Man surrounds himself with the true image of himself. Every spirit builds itself a house, and beyond its houses a world. And beyond its world, a heaven. Know then that the world exists for you. For you, the phenomenon is perfect. What are we that only can we see? All that Adam had, all that Caesar could, you have and can do. Adam called his house heaven and earth. Caesar called his house Rome. You perhaps call yours a cobbler's trade, 100 acres of land, or a scholar's garret. Yet, line for line and point for point, your dominion is as great as theirs. Though without fine name, build therefore your own world, as fast as you conform your life to the pure idea in your mind that will unfold its great proportion. Emerson said it beautifully. This is our dream and goal to create. Be it. Make it yours. Accept nothing less. Decide this is what's happening. Failure is a state of mind. Failure is a point of stopping. Failure can be, to round out what I started with, a changing of your mind. Failure can be a growing into a new manifestation, so you didn't continue manifesting that one. Who knows? Maybe 30 years from now, some weird thing pops up. You'll be like, oh my God, that was from like forever ago. Who knows? Fact is, we can change our minds. But failure is a state of mind. It's a state of being. It's looking at what's happening right now and saying, yeah, doesn't work because I don't see it right now. Doesn't work because it didn't happen fast enough. Well, how quickly it happens is up to us. When we give up, if we give up, or if we don't, it's up to us as well. You have something that's just out of your reach? Good. There's a famous saying, and I probably screw up who it was that actually says it, but A man's reach should exceed his grasp, or what's a heaven for? Dan, Radio Style.